What's up and welcome to the Sam Dracula channel. My name is Sam. I'm a Hornets fan and we're talking NBA draft. The NBA draft, first round of the NBA draft was last night. It is the next day. The second round is tonight. And I want to make a video just discussing my thoughts, summarizing my thoughts about last night and expectations, and talk about my expectations about tonight for the second round. If you're just seeing this, I live streamed during the entire first round with my friend Mike. That's on the channel. If you want to go check that out, see my reactions in real time to Kon Knueppel, to the Mark Williams trade, to Vasa Micic potentially coming back, and Liam McNeeley being selected with the 29th overall pick. It's 4 hours of stuff. Feel free to jump around. But in this video is going to be kind of a summary of my thoughts of last night with a night's rest in between, with some clarity, and also after listening to what GM Jeff Peterson had to say about draft night. So let's get into it. I'm going to try to break this up into sections. So I'm going to talk about my expectations going into last night. Then I'm going to talk about the selections themselves, Kon Knueppel and Liam McNeeley. Then I'm going to talk Mark Williams trade, and then talk about my expectations for tonight in the second round. So going into last night, what needed to happen for Charlotte is they had to replenish the young talent pool within this roster, because they've whiffed on so many draft picks the last few years that you look at the guys on rookie deals currently, it gets dry really fast. There's a steep drop off after Brandon Miller, and that's concerning for a team, especially that doesn't have a lot of cap space, a team that doesn't have a lot of wins. The saving grace is future draft picks, which they do. Hornets own all of their picks plus some other teams' picks, so check plus right with that. But you also hope to have a least like bed of young talented players that you can kind of hope that will develop into something special. And that talent pool is really dry, was really dry going into last night. Right now, guys that are 23 years old and younger still on rookie deals, you're talking to Jean Salon, Nick Smith Jr., Brandon Miller, and KJ Simpson. Now, KJ's on a two-way. Nick Smith Jr. has this season and next season to kind of prove himself. Brandon Miller, solidified. Tejan Salon has a lot to prove still. That doesn't reek of a lot of confidence of young talent and high-end potential from that group of guys, okay? It is not great. So that had to be addressed last night. And then on the court, just from a basketball needs point of view, they needed everything. And they needed shooting. They needed playmaking. They needed defense on both perimeter defense and interior defense. They needed rebounding. And then from like a trait point of view, they need guys that are tough, strong-minded competitors, because there's not a lot of them on the roster. There hasn't been a lot of them on the roster recently. And we know this front office likes it. Like in the short period of time under this new regime, we've seen guys, every guy they've brought in, Josh Green, Diabate, even Tejan Salon, are all strong-minded, competitive, high work rate, high engine type of guys. And if this team ever starts winning and really has a true strong identity, it's going to be built around that. Like that is the goal here, from what I've seen as a fan. So with that being said, let's talk about who was selected, how those needs were addressed. And starting off with my first point about addressing the lack of young talent on the team, them adding 2 rookies in the first round addresses that in a big way. And they're both younger players too. Like Dalton Connect, who they tried to trade for, much older prospect. These guys are one and done guys, young players who still have a lot to learn and grow into, which fits with the long-term vision of what we got going on here, right? So let's talk Kon Knueppel. I give that selection a B+, that for so many reasons. Even though I wanted Ace Bailey, Knueppel can start for this team right away, okay? He can push Josh Green to the bench where he belongs, not watching as a spectator, but as a 6th or 7th man, which is what they did in Dallas, and we saw the best from him. Josh Green's not a starter in today's NBA on a good team. And that's the end goal, right? To become a good team. So getting the most out of him, this makes so much sense. Addressing that spot, whether it was Edgecombe or Trey Johnson or Knueppel, addressing the guard wings spot and putting Josh Green in a different role in the rotation, even though I know he's coming off an injury, but I fully expect him to be part of the team and healthy at the start of the season. But Green in a different role, in a less impactful offensive role is crucial. And it fortifies a potential backcourt duo of Trey Mann and Josh Green. Like when you're just talking about building something and checking boxes, you have your offensive and defensive specialists coming off the bench. That's a good place to be as a Hornets fan when you're trying to just build out the rotation from next season and beyond. So Knueppel can do that. He's a big-time competitor. He's super smart. He's been Batman. He's been Robin, and will fit into this nucleus of LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Miles Bridges. Like, those three guys haven't played a lot of basketball together. We still don't know if that really works. But when you're talking timeline, Knueppel fits the age profile with Miller and LaMelo as a trio that you can look forward to growing together, right? I don't know if Bridges comes back or not. I do know. I'd be shocked if Bridges got traded this offseason. Same with LaMelo. Like I just quick tangent. I think they fully expect to start the season with those four dudes and Nurkic or Diabate as your center, and you just kind of run with it. Knueppel has the size. He has the strength. He doesn't have the lateral quickness and athleticism you like. Like the team isn't going to be better defensively because they drafted Kon Knueppel. They have a chance of being smarter defensively, but you're not going to find a prospect that checks all the boxes at 4, typically, right? You hope to do that with 1 or 2 in the draft. At 4, you're hoping to have that just to cover the most ground as possible to address a real need. And this does, because the shooting on the team is terrible. Like, I was looking at the shooting statistics from last season, and I know there were a lot of injuries or whatever, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I don't care about the injuries. The stats are the stats. And the team wasn't designed to be good either. Like, I'm convinced they were trying to tank since the Tajon Salon selection. But anyway, the stats are the stats. And if it wasn't for the Orlando Magic, the Hornets would be last in a lot of categories. So shouts to the Magic for holding it down. Kon Knueppel addresses the shooting in a big way, which means, you have LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Knueppel. Those are real threats from distance. Miles Bridges is an average three-point shooter. He can get really streaky. But, like, if you're defending Miles Bridges and he has an open look, you're not dying to close him out because, like, you're more if you're playing against Bridges, you're more than cool. You should be fine with him taking as many shots as he wants, and you're trying to prevent Miller, Ball, and now Knueppel from lining up from distance. And then none of the centers are shooters. I know, like Nurkic, God bless his soul, he will take them. They don't look great. It's not something we're trying to rely on either, right? So when you're just kind of mapping out the floor shape and the width available to it, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Knueppel, big upgrade, especially considering Josh Green was afraid to shoot. Trey Mann is a scorer for real. Like, he's a legit player. Seth Curry, who knows if he comes back, right? Grant Williams is coming off an ACL injury. Like, the real shooting options, there's a big drop off real quick with some guys with question marks in that zone. So that, with Knueppel alone, fully addressed and will help everything else out. Kon Knueppel isn't the cure-all to all the Hornets' woes, but he will help the team now and in the future. And so I'm more than okay with it. That's a real B+. Plus, he carries the traits. Like, he carries the mentally strong trait. He carries the high work rate trait and the engine. Like, he fits into what they're trying to build out from an identity point of view. Thankfully, he has a skill set to match it, right? Tajon Salon has the work rate, has the mental strength, but he doesn't have the skill set that Knueppel does right now. Maybe one day when you have a guy that has it up here and he can produce, you got to take him at 4. So let's talk Liam McNeeley next. So he was selected with the 29th overall pick, and you look at a lot of big boards and mock drafts. It's quite a fall for him, given what he was projected to potentially go. So when the Hornets select him and there are other centers available, it is a bit of a like it does raise your eyebrow a little bit, but then we just kind of take a step back and think about, well, the Hornets pick at 33rd and 34th tonight. There are centers available at that range that they can address then. Liam McNeeley feels like a complete value pick. I understand folks who say it's a bit redundant after taking Kon Knueppel, but what I just said about the state of the roster and the lack of depth when you talk about shooting, available shooters and scorers, the Hornets needed McNeeley. So, yes, he is, I think, a really nice value pick and will be a good pro. He also addresses a need, and it's great when those two things or three things can mash up. I was listening to and reading some stuff about him earlier, and everyone is kind of on the same page where his shooting numbers aren't really an indication of what he can really do as a shooter, given the fact he was coming off of like two major ankle injuries and pneumonia, I believe, which kind of affected his play. With all that, still won Big East Freshman of the Year. So salute to him for powering through. But he carries the same thing: the competitiveness, the mental strength, the engine. The Hornets are sticking true to that archetype or those character traits with the guys they're selecting. So Hornets fans, like, as long as Peterson's in charge, I think this is becoming a trend, and we'll see how it plays out tonight with the second round and how we go into free agency. But when you look at the guys the Hornets have moved on from, Mark Williams, and who they've brought in, Kon Knueppel, McNeeley, who they've extended, Diabate, what they really value, and it's hard to find fault with it. Like, it just makes sense. Guys who love basketball and guys who want to bust their ass to be better and to compete in games. So going back to McNeeley specifically, he has all those traits. So check. He has good size for the NBA. Check. Like, similar to Kon Knueppel, you don't want him like putting the ball on the floor a ton, but can do it. You know, shooting off screens, shooting off the catch. Like, these guys, both Kon Knueppel and McNeeley have that in their bag. But truly, like, it fortifies that second unit. Now, the defense, like Kon Knueppel, is not going to improve things, but it addresses a real need that the Hornets have, and every team in the NBA looks for is competent, reliable shooting. And to get Kon Knueppel and McNeeley yesterday or last night is an incredible bit of, I guess, of talent acquisition. And so, yeah, they took a guy 29th overall who won't start for the team. And that's fine because you need a rotation. Ask the Knicks about that. You know what I mean? You got to have guys you can turn to, and you got to have depth, especially with the injuries. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get hurt at some point. It's going to happen. You just hope it's not for too long, right? You got to have depth, and the Hornets are building depth through the draft, as they should. So just kind of talking about where McNeeley would fit into this, in my view, before the second round starts. Obviously, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Kon Knueppel, Miles Bridges, Nurkic as your 5. Your bench, Trey Mann as your – so assuming Trey Mann comes back, Trey Mann as your primary ball handler and scorer, right? Josh Green as your defensive perimeter specialist. Liam McNeeley as your shooter, like your shooting specialist. Grant Williams, assuming he's back and healthy and all that stuff, as your defensive anchor, right? And Diabate as another defensive anchor and rebounder. And Grant with some shooting help as well. So, like, yeah, that's not like we're not talking this team's going to be a 6 seed or anything like that with that grouping, but that's a really competent second unit. And then you throw in Nick Smith Jr., right? You throw in Tajon Salon as your 11th or 12th men at that stage. That's not a bad place to be. Let's get into Mark Williams. The reason the Hornets had the 29th overall pick and had the opportunity to draft Liam McNeeley. What did I say at the beginning of this video about what this front office likes and targets when they look at building this roster? They want guys who love basketball, guys that are competitors, guys that have high engines, guys that are dogs. Mark Williams is a super talented young man. I think he will play in the NBA for a long time. I don't think he's a dog. And it sucks because with his size, he should be. He really should be. All I need to know about him, what did it for me, was how passive he was against the Lakers after the trade got canceled or rescinded. I needed him to punish Vanderbilt and Jackson Hayes to show the Lakers what they missed out on. And he was so differential to those guys on the low block. It was frustrating as hell, man. Offensively, his skills, I think, are what you're, if you're a Suns fan and you find this video, this is what you should expect. Like, I think he's really skilled offensively around the paint. We saw some little baby flashes of him extending his range. He's a good free throw shooter, so like you can kind of see it. I think there is a scenario where Mark Williams starts hitting threes at some point in his career, not anytime soon, but I think he has that in his bag and in his potential. Because defensively, he's just prone to getting bullied, man. With his injury history, with his back and his feet, it's probably not the best idea to put on a bunch of weight, but he needs to. So like it's a kind of a catch-22 because he's not strong enough to play or slow down or defend bigger players, bigger centers. Guys like Gafford or Sarr are going to eat him alive. Valanciunas, like anybody, any big body center, like anybody 250 up is going to give Mark Williams a long day on the glass. And that's an issue. That's an issue. And it's something that doesn't mean he's not a good NBA player. It's just something you have to address with the rest of the roster. Like Mark Williams coming into the league, he compared himself to Robert Williams. And Robert Williams succeeded best when he had Al Horford next to him. And you need that secondary post presence that can be your defensive anchor and allow Mark Williams to be that help side guy like Robert Williams was used, or how he was used with Boston back in the day. And you need that secondary guy. And so for Phoenix, what Phoenix is doing is insane. Just blankly put, like everything they've done since Ishbia bought the team has been crazy. So prayers up for y'all Suns fans. But the fact that they have Mark Williams and Nick Richards is so nuts. I've seen it. You've seen it here in Charlotte. They're trying to do it over there in Phoenix. What are you doing? It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And they also draft Malawach. It's craziness. What are they doing? Someone explain it to me. Mark, best of luck to you. I hope you enjoy your time in Phoenix and the trade goes through and you get a fat second contract. I'm wishing him the best. But as a Hornets fan, I'm glad they're moving on because I was terrified of the idea of having to pay him and being in the Mark Williams business long term. It was time to move on, and I'm glad they traded him for the second time. What I'm not happy about is this. On stream when this came up, okay, but I'm going to just do this before I talk about the picks. All we knew was that Mark was traded for 2 first-round draft picks. Didn't know how they were going to make the money work. So like I assumed a player would have to come back the other way. Didn't expect it to be Micic, and I felt like I wanted to cry. Like if anybody is really upset about the Kon Knueppel selection and they're frustrated about it or wanted somebody else, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, whomever, that's how I feel about Micic coming back. That's how I feel about him coming back here. Now, he may not come back at all. There's reports about him going to Fenerbahce, which best of luck to you. He should go over there. He was a beast in Europe. He's not an NBA player. Worst case scenario, it is just a 1-year deal. I'm not sure if it's fully guaranteed right now anyway, but Micic, God bless you. I have no interest in watching you play basketball for the Charlotte Hornets ever again. So I just want to put that out there and put a bow on that. So something to monitor. And hopefully that they reach an outcome, a good outcome with all of that. So with this, the Hornets get back into the first round. And at that stage, I'm like this trade happened so early-ish in the night that I was like, could they get into the mid to late teens? They didn't do that. They held right where they were. Took McNeeley, like I just talked about. Good. Really solid. And then the 2029 first-round draft pick, least favorable between Cleveland, Utah, and Minnesota. Now, Cleveland and Minnesota should still be very good in 2029. Utah, who the hell knows? So that pick isn't going to be incredible, most likely. Unless everybody bottoms out somehow by then. But who knows? That's 4 years from now. But you add that to the Miami pick the Hornets have, the Dallas pick the Hornets have, and then there's another one from the Nurkic deal. But I'm not even sure. Is it like a Kings pick or a Suns pick? It's a weird one. It's one that's similar to this where it's like bracketed. But the Hornets have now, I think, at least three, maybe four first-round picks from other teams, and they have all of their own. So when the day comes, the Charlotte Hornets are ready to go for it. They have picks to leverage, to package, to go get somebody, whether it's to move up in a draft or to acquire a veteran or a fringe all-star or hopefully maybe one day an all-NBA level guy. You know, we saw Desmond Bane go for 4-1s. You know, if that one guy that's just missing to complete the puzzle, like Mikal Bridges was meant to be, or what Bane is hopeful to be for Orlando, when the day comes, Charlotte has that ammunition to go get that guy if they want to, whenever they're ready to do that. I think we're still a ways from that happening, but it's in the cards. Like it's a possibility. And for them to even still get 2 first-round picks from Mark Williams, because that was what they're supposed to get from the Lakers deal, plus Dalton Connect. You know, in totality, they have Connect and 2 1s from the Lakers. That was the initial package. Now it's McNeeley, one other pick. It's a pretty decent value. So moving on to tonight. The second round of the draft starts at 8 p.m. I'm not going to live stream during it, but I will make a video or just go live talking about it either tonight or tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. So you don't miss that. The shooting need has been addressed with McNeeley and Kon Knueppel. So my expectations going into tonight, right, with the second round, Hornets are picking at 33 and at 34. They got to address the bigs. Nurkic, Diabate, that'll get you through a year where there's low expectations, right? But you need a developmental big behind them because Nurkic seems to be primed to be traded at some point too as a salary dump, as an expiring contract and an opportunity to gather more like future draft assets. So I doubt Nurkic finishes the season with Charlotte. And this is a scenario where he doesn't even start the season with Charlotte too. But I'll be shocked if he actually rides out the entire year here without getting traded for some future stuff while taking on more contracts. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. But they got to have a center to learn and to develop behind those 2 guys. So that needs to happen. And then with the other pick, you can go point guard, right? They still have to address the backup point guard spot. KJ Simpson, Vasiljevic on coming back. You know what I mean? It's pretty dry. Like Trey Mann isn't a playmaker in that regard for other people. Nick Smith Jr. isn't that guy. So there's no one occupying that space really that I feel comfortable with right now. So if they can take a shot at a point guard in the second round and definitely take a shot at a center in the second round, I'll be really happy with how both rounds played out, including the Mark Williams deal. So for me, I want the Hornets to take Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton with one of those picks. He can shoot a little bit. He's a smart player. He's a high effort guy. It kind of fits with what they have going on here. And he's an older player too. So maybe he's more NBA ready, right? As a second round pick, I think it's worth taking the guys with some seasoning because they're less of a risk and you have a chance at getting real good value from a guy who's a contributor on a second round draft pick contract. So I would go Kalkbrenner with one of those picks. And I would take a fly at Nembhard's brother from Gonzaga. Is his name Ryan? Yeah, Ryan. He's really small. But He's a really good playmaker, and you may catch some magic in a bottle, so to speak, with an undersized point guard coming off the bench. Like, I wouldn't hate it, especially given where the Hornets are right now. And I would think they'll be pretty complete unless another deal happens where they trade off Josh Green or trade off Miles Bridges or trade off, I don't know, Nick Smith Jr. I don't know. But largely, I think once they take these picks, I expect them to be done for the night. But we'll see. We'll see. Someone can come calling. Do you need 2 high second-round picks? Like, maybe they could fall back a little bit. I don't know. But I'll be watching with great interest and hoping for the best, like always. So that'll do it for me for now. I'll be back again later at some point, either late tonight or tomorrow, talking Hornets basketball, talking NBA draft, and looking ahead to free agency, because that's right around the corner here coming soon. Big Trey Man decision coming up. Hopefully he returns, but more on that later. But anyway, I appreciate y'all for hanging out. Let me know your thoughts on the draft class right now. I didn't give a grade. Overall, I'm giving the whole thing a B+, like just across the board. Knueppel, McNeeley, the Mark Williams haul, just from the first round, I give that a B+. If they take a center with one or both those picks, it could reach A territory for me as a holistic 2-night combo. But we'll see what they do tonight. But until then, I've been Sam. You've been great. Peace.